They call one Nigeria bound. See how police people they use motor to heal us. They escort Fulani we carry gun, we carry car.
Those boys will not define. Those boys will not define. Those boys will not they blame. Say they no can join army for Southeast. I beg you, no verse.
This bill reinforces the important work we have championed to combat the persecution of Christians in Nigeria, where nearly 100,000 Christians have been killed.
Just days after the Oyo school children were rescued, gunmen have struck again. A principal and 4 students were abducted from government secondary school in Kogi State while writing their NECO examinations on Wednesday. Nigerians are asking, when will schools be safe for our children, while demanding their immediate release?
7 elections is that no winner will emerge in the first round. We may have to go for runoff. And Bola Tinubu will not be on the ballot for the runoff because he will at best be 3rd in the election. He has no pathway to win. I have done.
Nigerians are reacting in disbelief to the final forfeiture order of 48 properties linked to former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. The properties, which were initially valued at over 213 billion naira, include hotels, schools, a university.
Yes, the other time I heard it, but I did not see the video that the police were seen escorting the Fulani headers, the suspected people, that are causing problems. They were seen escorting them with their vehicles, and they are carrying their head of cattle and the animals with them. Well, I never see them, but now I have seen through the video. Well, I'm surprised. While people somewhere in Benue are crying every day that they don't have protections, is it a dream or what? Are we existing in the same country? Or something we don't know that is going on in this country? These are the things that are bringing problem, why people agitate for freedom. You cannot be doing another thing, preaching another thing, and your action is showing something different. It will not work. Now, the other day, I saw that they said Southeast youth should come and join police. Another one on the 9th of July. This one, another one. And I was like, this one, they are repeating this thing. Are you sure that something is not cooking? But anyway, let's start with the police on that we are seeing escorting the headers. Well, I'm not saying that people should not be protected, though, but there are more serious people that need this protection. I believe they need this protection when lives were involved, when they are being killed. Even if you are going to provide protection for these people, also provide for the other people. Yeah? But let's start with the headers first.
Nigerians, so now this way, then they call one Nigeria bound. See how police people they use motor to heal us. They escort Fulani we carry gun, we carry car. People now watch you, I beg. This thing I see Nigeria with the or in another country with this too. I beg now watch you soon.
Yes, you can see that this one is quite different from the other one I showed you guys the other time. Those ones, there is no security people attached to them. They were just moving on their own. So, but this one, they have security, though this one is a kind of township setting. Yes, so they were moving with the security to wherever they are going. Having said that, I said, let's watch this news coming from a Daily Post on the 9th of July. They were requesting that the military is now saying that, or continuously saying that the Southeasterners are not joining the military. I was like, is this things ordinary or something cooking behind that we are yet to see? Well, let's listen to that first.
Dear Nigerian Army, I beg more than no verse. Those boys will not define. Those boys wey una dey find, those boys wey una dey blame, say they no come join army for southeast, abeg make una no vex. Those boys, that low turnout wey una dey experience for southeast, make I tell you where dem dey. Those youth wey una dey find make dem come join Nigerian army, una no know where dem dey? Abi make I help you tell dem? Abeg, those people wey una dey find, wey una say they no gree come join Nigerian army, abeg make I tell you, they are in Wawa barracks in Niger State. You understand? They are in on the grand cell. Please, many of them has been or was arrested since last 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Please release those boys, please, so that they will join Nigerian army. Many of them were killed during Operation Pattern Dance 1, Operation Pattern Dance 2. Many of them were killed in Nnamdi Kanu's compound. Many of them were killed in Obigbo. In fact, those boys wey una dey see, people wey remain now na between that kind 7, 8, 9, 10 years. People wey been dey mature, wey suppose enter Nigerian army, una attack them ESL, una attack them Biafran Liberation Army. Many of them are dead already. Please, those youth, those boys wey suppose participate for Nigerian army recruitment, many of them are dead. Please, some of them are people we cannot accounted for. We don't know their whereabouts. We started looking for them during the Operation Pattern Dance. You know, when you raided some of our forests, we lost many youths back then. Till today, we continue to lose our youth. So if you don't see any Igbo boys, or if you know they see them plenty, where they willing to join Nigerian army, abeg, no blame us. Some of those people we supposed to see now IPOB people. And you know one thing about IPOB, they are terrorists. You understand? They are terrorists. Who they call me for phone?
Well, I want to believe that it is just a mere observation, because you cannot force people to do the job they don't want to do. You can only observe that maybe the Northwest are not coming out to join the military, or the Southeast. But you cannot force people, because something led to that decision. Have we bothered to investigate to know why the Southeasterners suddenly dropped in joining the military? I think they should have, do some investigation into that, instead of coming out just to say this thing that they are not joining. Because before the Civil War, the Easterners are more in the military. Yes, the facts are there. And they are more in the military. They are top ranking officers. But what happened? Well, they can do well to make further investigation. Yes, you must have, heard that the U.S. is withdrawing some of their aids, but people are talking. People are talking in that regards that the U.S. we are playing with the emotions in Nigeria. A lot of comments. The majority comments that I saw is it not time for Nigeria to disintegrate so that people will live in peace and protect their life the way they want? That is the major comment that is reigning, So, but having said that, let's watch this. If you have anything you want to say in this regards, please don't hesitate to drop it. But let's watch first what Relly Moore, is saying about that. People believe that he is the only representative of Nigeria in the U.S. Congress now. So, but there are skepticism that enough has not been done in that regard. And however, we are not even been hearing of the laws, the prescription, and whatever, all those things that US plan to, enact in their country. We've not heard anything about that again. So, but let's hear a little more first.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this legislation. And I want to thank Chairman Cole and Chairman Diaz-Balart for their leadership on this bill. Thank you. This bill reinforces the important work we have championed to combat the persecution of Christians in Nigeria, where nearly 100,000 Christians have been killed since 2009. Last year, President Trump asked Chairman Cole and myself to investigate the slaughter of Christians in Nigeria, myself and Chairman Diaz-Balart going to Nigeria. Since then, we have worked with the Trump administration to develop a strategy that provides assistance to the Nigerian government in their defense of Christians while holding President Tinubu's government accountable if they fail. The U.S.-Nigeria security agreement is already bearing fruit, including eliminating ISIS's number 2 globally. This bill bolsters our strategy by conditioning 50% of all U.S. assistance to Nigeria on measurable actions to protect Christians. It also puts a spotlight on the Middle Belt, where we have not seen nearly enough progress in protecting Christians against Fulani Islamic terrorists. With this vote, we will express the support of this chamber for the report we presented to the White House on how to end the Christian genocide in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, the United States must never turn a blind eye to our persecuted brothers and sisters in Christ. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this bill. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
All right, so that is really more and what he said in the Congress. Well, if you ask me, I will tell you that the most important thing in Nigeria now is security. Please, security is the most important thing. And insecurity somewhere else, anywhere within the country, is insecurity in all Nigerians, in all places in Nigeria. That is the way it happens. Because once you don't condemn it and do something about it, it's going to spread, except that you are in support of it. Abacha once said that if any insurgency that exceeded more than 48 hours, that the government has hand in it. That is what a whole head of state said. And to tell you when that thing, suspected insurgency started in this country. You see the problem? Well, we are going to hear from El-Rufai, talking about election. 2027 is the most important thing that they are talking about. They are not talking about people's life that we are in danger, people that are being murdered. So many people are still in captivity up to today, and we are not hearing anything. What we are hearing is about election, how to tackle opposition, blah, 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 blah. Is that what we have been elected to do? Are we not elected to safeguard these people that elected us, the masses? Yes, it is the responsibility of the government to protect the masses. I will show you what I believed one of the major things that El-Rufai said that put him in trouble. Yes, I want you to listen to this. It's one of the things that put him in trouble. Yes, watch.
I'll not tell you how we're going to win. But I tell you very clearly, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, the worst case scenario in the 2027 elections is that no winner will emerge in the first round. We may have to go for runoff. And Bola Tinubu will not be on the ballot for the runoff because he will at best be third in the election. He has no pathway to win. I have done the maths, I have done the analysis. He will be at best third. But he can deceive himself. He may think, I have money. Because they have taken all the money in the country. I have INEC. I have the police. I have the army. You know what? President Tinubu, invite President Jonathan for a chat and ask him if he didn't have all this in 2015 and we got him out.
Was the case still the same, similar to 2015? It's
There are those who will
worse.
say Tinubu has never lost an election. And it's different as a politician compared to Goodluck Jonathan.
Tinubu has never lost an election. That can be contested, but it's okay. He has never lost an election. It's a political strategist. Is this, is that? Wait. Nasir El-Rufai has said, if you want to learn some lessons, invite President Jonathan for a chat over coffee and ask him what happened in 2015. That's all.
The desire or the intention of this APC government is to continue to hold Malam Nasir El-Rufai to ensure that he does not participate in this election and he does not strengthen the opposition. That is exactly what they plan to do. If, God forbid, anything happens to Malam Nasir El-Rufai, President Bola Tinubu should realize, even if he didn't intend it, that he will be held personally responsible. And the consequences cannot even be imagined.
Well, to me, I want to believe that these are, the normal propagandas that opposition and the politicians do. They are normal propagandas, except if they know El-Rufai as somebody that says something and it will happen. But on the general note, politics, people say anything and it's taken like that. Not in some grievous offenses like the Kenneth Okonkwo and Peter Obi. Not in that regards. I mean, normal propaganda of this man, you cannot win 2027 election. I will be the one that will win. Stuff like that. But having said that, please take your time to listen to this. It's going to make your day. Let's go.
Just days after the Oyo school children were rescued, gunmen have struck again. A principal and 4 students were abducted from government secondary school in Kogi State while writing their NECO examinations on Wednesday. Nigerians are asking, when will schools be safe for our children while demanding their immediate release? Nigerians are reacting in disbelief to the final forfeiture order of 48 properties linked to former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. The properties, which were initially valued at over 213 billion naira, include hotels, schools, a university, factories, and land across Abuja, Kano, Kaduna, and Kebbi State. Senate President Godswill Akpabio has announced the Senate's decision to donate 50 million naira to the families of security personnel and teachers killed during the Ogbomosho rescue operation. Let's watch.
We also noted the fact that 3 of the personnel who went for the rescue operations lost their lives in the course of trying to rescue those children. An army lieutenant from Adamawa was killed, a police sergeant was killed, another private soldier was killed, and many were wounded. So on behalf of the Senate, we decided that also the teachers, 2 teachers that were in captivity with the children were also murdered. So we've taken the motion, we've applauded government, we've applauded the security agencies, and we are pleading that the same be extended to any other part of the country where there may be any Nigerian in captivity. And so today we just felt, after discussion with the leadership, that we want to also support the victims' families. Like the young lieutenant was just 28 years old when he died in that operation. So we are sending a token of 50 million naira to them to be divided into the 5 deceased families. The family of the 2 teachers, the family of the 3 operatives who lost their lives, 10 million each, on behalf of the Senate.
Now, 50 million naira donation is a welcome and commendable gesture from the Senate. However, putting it in full context, 3 military officers, F.A. Isaac, Silas Musa, and Abena John Jerome, and at least 1 teacher gave their lives so that 46 children could come home. What these families truly deserve is a comprehensive welfare package, children's education, fully funded guaranteed health care, and a permanent monthly stipend. A one-time donation, however symbolic, must not be the end of Nigeria's obligation to those who paid the ultimate price. Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Bimbai.
Yes.
Good morning, Rufai. How are you this morning? I mean, commendable gesture by the Senate. 50 million naira, I believe that Godswill Akpabio said that it will be divided 10 million naira each. I believe there are 5 families that they're trying to give. But, you know, like I said, I think that Nigeria must continue to support these families that were held in captivity for 56 days. Meanwhile, in a devastating development, just days after Nigeria celebrated the rescue of the Oyo school children, terrorists stormed government secondary school Olowa in Dekina local government area of Kogi State, abducting 4 students, the school principal, and a NECO ad hoc staff member, while candidates were writing their ongoing NECO examinations. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has already responded, declaring the Kogi school attack shows the federal government has failed to protect Nigerian children. Security forces, however, have launched a bushcombing rescue operation, and 1 student has already been rescued. Bimbai, the Oyo rescue was celebrated just days ago, and now another school has been attacked during exams. This is the 14th school kidnapping since Tinubu came to power. And the question Nigeria must urgently answer is, what is the systematic plan to end this crisis once and for all? We hailed the Oyo rescue operation, and now we hear these. Your thoughts?
And you're asking the right question. What is the plan? Because even while the Oyo captives were being held, we were asking, what is happening with safe schools? And unfortunately, we have these conversations, and not often enough do we see them translate into anything tangible, any tangible reform on the ground. But there's a lot of issues beneath this particular Kogi incident, which is that these students were sitting for an exam in a school that the state had already declared should not be used because of its isolated area. They said that that area was not safe enough. So the state had declared that that school should not be put to use. That's the first issue, is illegal use of premises that has already been declared unsafe. The second issue is that it is alleged that the exam they were sitting may not have even been the authentic exam, that there was some type of arrangement that was put in place for them to come and do this, and that in fact this location has now become notorious for exam malpractice. So you have groups of people who've identified that there are abandoned infrastructure and buildings around, and they're now using it to extort people and to conduct fraudulent activities, taking advantage of these young people who need to write exams. So you see the multiple layers of issues bedeviling this one incident. So we now ask ourselves, when these issues happen and places are abandoned, it goes back to the conversation about undergoverned spaces. Are we just abandoning the places that we say are not safe? And once we just abandon them, what steps are we taking to ensure that a different group with a different, nefarious agenda doesn't come and start abusing those places? So you look at this school, it hasn't been in use, rightfully so, because of its location. However, you now have people taking advantage of that. So it's not enough to say we've left places that were ransacked or there was a security incident in a place, so it was abandoned, because it's now clear that there's also a strategy where, whether it be bandits or terrorists, are also tracking those types of properties, and they are now converting them to use for their own ends, which is just terribly unfortunate. And it just goes back to the issues that we continue to regurgitate, under policing, and we've spoken about them ad infinitum. When are we now going to get to a place that we have the manpower extended in all these areas? Because we can't continue to have undergoverned spaces. It's simply a too large a risk, and education, our young, our vulnerable, are those who are highest at the risk of this.
Well, thank you for your submission, Vimbai. And a deeply disturbing development from Plateau State. A father has gone viral, recounting how his wife, 6 children, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter were all killed in a single night by terrorists, as he barely escaped with 1 child. In a clip making the rounds on social media, the man tells the tale of how he barely managed to escape with the child when terrorists arrived at their doorstep last Sunday evening. But the story that set Nigerians truly on fire is the separate video showing a resident alleging that soldiers stationed just 2 kilometers away were unable to respond to the attack because their trucks had no fuel. Let's take a look.
The military were never in charge of the situation here. Honestly, they would have got them not to reach the nearby village to us here. If they were ready, I call the sector the person commanding this checkpoint here. I called him, honestly, just their fuel is finished. They cannot go anywhere. Those people in the checkpoint here, from here, not up to 2 kilometers. Not up to 2 kilometers. Everybody is totally depressed. Seriously depressed. Nobody, if not because of us having the heart that we will not leave this place, this situation would have made us to completely move and leave this place. But if we leave, where can we go? Everybody is seriously affected. Families lost their loved one, husbands and wives. Children are left without mothers and fathers. All these are things that will never make us to feel that there is anything that is good. Nothing is good before us as it is now.
This is so sad. A father loses 9 family members in one night, and the soldiers 2 kilometers away had no fuel to respond. Nigerians online are calling it outrageous and demanding answers from the Defense Ministry. If this fuel shortage allegation is accurate, it represents a catastrophic failure of military logistics, and the blood of those 9 souls demand accountability. Play 2 is bleeding, Dr. Abati. This is so unfortunate. May their souls rest in peace. Your thoughts?
Well, it is tragic. It is also outrageous, as the people have pointed out. And the people who have expressed their outrage, they are in order to do so. 9 members of a family dying just like that. And the assailants were said to have said they wanted to teach the particular gentleman a lesson. So we're dealing with a pressure cooker style kind of society where anything is always at a boiling point. 9 persons killed. How does a man again regain hope in this country? And in fact, one of the persons that was killed was a 3-month-old baby belonging to the brother of the man. So Nigeria definitely has failed this person. And that was why we made the point that, look, it's not enough to rescue people from Orire local government. That in fact, the Orire local government area incident itself is a reminder for the government of Nigeria to realize that the battle against violence, against conflict, has not yet come to an end, and that there is a lot more to do, and there is a lot more people to be rescued and to be protected in various parts of the country. And that was why when you say, oh, Senator Bamidele says for state police, there will be first-line charge. No, the issue is even far more complex than funding. It is also about tradition, about attitudes. Now, the agency involved that did not respond is called Operation Enduring Peace, STF, Operation Enduring Peace in Plateau State. Now that operation is not providing any enduring peace. It's a very negligent operation, and that should be investigated. They said they had no fuel in their vehicles. But after the terrorists, the assailants, the murderers had left, they suddenly showed up in the same vehicles. Where did they get the fuel from? So that's why I say, it's a very complex situation, dealing with accountability, abdication of responsibility. And I think that this particular incident should be investigated by the relevant authorities. Who is in charge of Operation Safe Endurance? Who is in charge of fuel, logistics? Who is that officer who said that they had no fuel. But fuel came like manna from heaven after the murderers had made good their escape.
Unacceptable.
So this is what makes the situation so embarrassing,
devastating,
and so offensive,
absolutely,
and so much of a reminder that government still needs to do a lot more.
They need to do a lot more. Again, may their souls rest in peace. I just would like to highlight this story for you to just chime in, Rufai.
I should give kudos to equipping the saints, equipping the persecuted. You know, I was asking Mr. Farouk about Christian genocide, and he said it's not happening in Nigeria. And I was just laughing at him. So this village, people that are killed in this Jos, what are they? Are they not Christians? Why are they being persecuted? The military didn't respond. How would they respond, Oji? Let me read this very interesting story to you.
Go ahead.
336.7 billion was budgeted for defense equipment. Only 16.7 billion, 4.9% was released. Specifically, the Nigerian Army received
4.9%.
Yeah. Specifically, the Nigerian Army received just 1.46 billion, 7.11% of its 20.56 billion allocation for purchasing security equipment. So there's a case of underfunding. There's also a case of complicity. Complicity because why we say, oh, they are not giving enough money. How did they find their way to the venue after the incident has happened? Oji, it was in the same country, some people ordered the military that were protecting the school, the girls' school in Kebbi, to leave. And after they left, the attack happened. So the people that they are killing in Jos, they are not Christians. So when you kill a Christian family in a mass number, it's not Christian persecution. When you kill people with their religious creed, it's not genocidal in nature. I know a lot of people, they hate to hear that word. It's not genocide. Don't say it's genocide. You see, go and read the genocide law. What did they say? Intent. Genocide didn't even say kill. It said intent. So, but you see, people will argue. You know why? Because all the people like to deflect the truth. And that's why we thank God for what is it called, like equipping the saints. Oji, if it's you and I, as journalists in Nigeria, that go there and interview those people, they say we are propaganda agents.
All right.
You saw how they tag Reverend Ezekiel, that Jomo. They tagged him all sorts of names. So you can't argue with evidence. What are they going to do about this?
Yeah, Father Ezekiel actually recently lost family members. I saw that story trending. Yes, my heart goes out to his family and to the families of those who have lost loved ones. May their souls rest in peace.
Amen.
Now let's head over to the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where reactions are trailing the inauguration of 20 fully furnished 5-bedroom duplexes for judges by Minister Nyesom Wike, who boldly declared that President Tinubu's administration will build even more houses for judges. Speaking during the inauguration on Wednesday, Wike addressed his critics directly, pointing to the new judges' quarters and declaring that the quarters were built on the very land he was accused of grabbing. Let's take a look.
We're not going to stop here. We're going to build more houses for the judges of the FCT. I know that the number is such that we can't carry all at the same time. I believe that before the first tenure of Mr. President expires, we would have gone far in the construction of 20 more houses for the judges of the FCT High Court. But you see, I have to say this. You know, in every position we occupy, we are bound to have criticisms. Leadership is not easy. Leadership is not only when things are good. Leadership is also when things are bad. Where you have now, I'm sure most of you would have read on social media when I was being accused of grabbing land. This is part of the land I was grabbing. It's part of the land I was grabbing. You know, when you're in a position and you want to do the right thing, people will come out to say all kinds of things. But for us, we must continue to be focused and do our job.
All right, Dr. Abati. The land Wike was accused of grabbing is now housing judges who serve millions of Nigerians. This has sparked fierce reactions online, with Nigerians debating whether housing judges makes them more independent or simply more indebted. And I'll take some reactions before I come to you on X. Labama wrote, providing decent housing for judges is important for judicial independence and attracting, retaining quality talent in the system. That said, in a country with severe housing deficits and high rent in Abuja, the government must equally prioritize affordable homes for civil servants, teachers, and ordinary citizens. True governance balances institutional support with people-focused development. Kudos on the delivery, but let's expand the scope. Well, Dog wrote, foolish decision. Are judges the only government workers? What is significantly different compared to other professionals like medical doctors, nurses, etc.? Giving them houses in detriment to other professionals is aimed at using judges to rig elections. Money wrote, is building houses for judges not an official form of bribery? In which world does a government build houses for judges who are supposed to be independent of the executive? If you build a house for them, will they be bold enough to make a judgment against you? The answer is no. I'm sure you saw those beautiful duplexes yesterday, Dr. Abati. I mean, I think we carried it live here on Arise TV. They were, basic mansions I saw for the judges. But you also had Minister Wike there saying that I've been accused of land grabbing. This is what I used the land for. Your thoughts?
Okay, I mean, whoever owns the land in trust for the state under the Land Use Act can also revoke the allocation, provided it is used in public interest. But you can argue about that, whether providing quotas for judges is in the public interest or not. That's that side of it. However, you see, as far back as 2014, the Nigerian government, the federal government, decided to make the emoluments, salaries, recurrent expenditure of the judiciary a first-line charge on the Consolidated Revenue Fund. What it means is that to enhance the independence of the judiciary will not have to rely on the budget provided by the executive for its own salaries, emoluments, and for its own recurrent expenditure. How have we managed that? Now, that has failed, particularly at the state levels, because these state governments, they collect, they get the revenue from the federal government, first line charge, and then, of course, they don't make provision for the judiciary. Or there is a problem with the management of it, some controversy in that regard, which has led to, is it Jokon or Josong, whatever they call that union within the judiciary, having to protest. So, and this now, at the federal level, you have the Federal Capital Territory now saying, well, consolidated, first charge on consolidated revenue fund or not, we are providing accommodation for judges to facilitate their work. And that is also what has given rise to people saying, why are you building houses for them? If they have first line charge, why don't they build their own, provide for their own accommodation? I think we have to take a second look at how that first line charge has been managed and what has led to a situation where our judiciary has found itself in a beggarly situation where accommodation will have to be provided. Now, Minister Wike made the point yesterday that they will build more mansions for the judges. The 20 mansions that were commissioned yesterday, they were for judges at the Federal High Court. The judges at the Appeal Court, if I were a justice of the Appeal Court, as many of my old classmates are, I will also think I deserve this kind of mansion. And then Supreme Court justices, they will also want their own. But, perception is also part of it. People will look around and they will say, well, this is to influence judges. But that then raises questions about the integrity of the judges and the justices themselves, because professionally, they are expected to be impartial unto death. They are expected to be above board like Caesar's wife and to dispense justice without fear or favor. The Nigerians, knowing themselves, are saying, well, if you give this kind of beautiful house to a judge, will he still behave like the blindfolded, lady of justice with the scales? So, but this is Nigeria, so people also have their right to raise such questions. But as for welfare of judges, I think judges need to be well taken care of. They need to be given, good environment to work. But who does that is the question.
Oh, really?
Who provides it? What are the circumstances? These are the questions.
All right,
and that's why Nigerians are suspicious.
Yeah, so many dimensions to the story. And I'd like to tie this in, Bimbai. Maybe you can discuss both as well. Well, still in Abuja, Nigerians are reacting in disbelief to the final forfeiture order of 48 properties linked to former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. The properties, which were initially valued at over 213 billion naira, include hotels, schools, a university, factories, and land across Abuja, Kano, Kaduna, and Kebbi State. The judge in the case ruled that the EFCC successfully established reasonable suspicion that the properties were acquired using proceeds of unlawful activities and that Malami and the linked companies failed to prove otherwise. This is such a dicey case. I mean, this sort of forfeiture without a conviction is raising eyebrows, a lot of conversations. And it's about the sheer scale here, which is staggering. We're talking about a private university, several hotel chains, factories, and even a filling station, all traced back to one former Attorney General of the Federation. And I'll take some reactions. Kenny wrote on X, "This is exactly why Nigeria continues to struggle. The level of corruption and looting by the elite and public officials is staggering. It has destroyed our education, healthcare, and economy, making real progress nearly impossible. People like Malami have stolen massive wealth and walked free. Many are still doing it today and may never be held accountable, while others are just waiting for their turn. The only reason Malami's case came out was because he was exposed." Mary wrote on X, "EFCC, please, I have a question. Everything you've been recovering, that everyone has been forfeiting, including Abachas, what happens to them? An average Nigerian does not feel the impact of this recovery, or is it a case of Olegbe, Olegba,
thief carry am from.
Who is buying? Who is buying? I know the Olegba. I mean, this is just
government official.
This is the question out there.
Relooting looted.
No, it's actually really outrageous and frustrating for a lot of Nigerians that don't feel the impact of this amount of money that has been forfeited.
The government has said they will fight corruption.
Corruption. The one before was corruption, and now more corruption. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, especially after just a few days after doing a report about trying people before they're on trial, he's yet to be. Thank you. So a man who's yet to be convicted, I want to ensure that we don't subject him to the court of public opinion. However, there are receipts here, and that is in there. Yes, I mean the evidence of these forfeitures have happened. Now, the part of the conversation here is that not all of these properties belong to him. Some are linked to him, and the EFCC has come out to say that the justification for this is that anything that they feel was procured with illicit funding is a subject of interest in this. So, also to clarify that some of them are related to him, but I mean, we're not here. He's got able lawyers. I'm not here to help him. The question around this is, how is it that when somebody, for example, is the Minister of Justice or is at the helm of all of these huge organizations, it's usually just the head of the principal we see rolling? What happens inside the institution? Why is it that we're not seeing civil servants who are also being tried? Because you can't tell me that a minister can remove money from an entire ministry by himself. So we want to make sure that there's an institutional cleanup It's like when you look at the NNPC, we look at Melekiari, we look at all these figures, but where is the institutional cleanup to support these operations? So several heads must roll. If we're saying that this evidence exists and this was happening within the ranks of the Ministry of Justice, it's possible that those civil servants who work in this ministry, who facilitated for this kind of largesse to escape their coffers, are still working there and will create a similar system when a new person comes into office. So there needs to be a move away from scapegoatism, because it's almost like the case of PFIPC, where the DG has now become the face of the case, the scapegoat. But we all know the number of institutions that needed to have been complicit for such a crime to have been able to be committed in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I think for me, that's the first culture that I want to ensure that let's begin a culture where we say that, yes, the head of the face must be questioned, that head must roll. But deeper down in the institution, are we doing the work to make sure that the smaller hands or the smaller fries who facilitate for this kind of scandal and corruption are also brought to book or have their names cleared, whatever the case may be? Because, of course, this trial is not conclusive. Now, let me move on to the case of, Abuja and housing for judges and so forth. Because, like Oji, you're rightfully saying, how are these forfeitures then used for the public good? We don't really get to follow the money trail. And now, when I link it to the issue of the housing for the judges, I think it's a formidable initiative. But the question is, let these initiatives that are supposed to cushion people not become elitist in nature. Because Nigeria has over 20 million housing deficit. So as we're building for judges, why are we not also building for the common man who is entitled to also have some type of state-created land? I know they had started a number of projects in different parts of the country, but not much progress has been made through the Ministry of Housing. So if we're going to cushion, the elite in society, we also have to be sure that we're cushioning the most vulnerable in society so that they also have a dignified place to call home. And maybe some of these hotels and factories and so forth can provide businesses. The hotels can, provide jobs and can provide accommodation, whatever it may be the case. But this needs to translate into something for the common and public good.
All right, perfect. And then I'd like to just highlight this trending video. I mean, the video has gone viral, showing Senate President Godswill Akpabio, who is now facing a firestorm online after a video of his eye-popping car convoy exploded across social media. In the video, which surfaced on Wednesday, sirens are heard blaring as a fleet of vehicles roll into a renewed hope event. Let's take a look. All right, this video, what did you say? What did you say?
Everybody, Senate President Ayi, Jayekpe Ajekpe Ayi Babami, Maybach Mercedes, you are the man.
I felt like I was watching Coming to America. Do you remember that scene of Coming to America? I mean, but Rufai, this video, the backlash has been swift and brutal. Nigerians online are calling it a jaw-dropping, tone-deaf display of power and privilege, while everyday citizens struggle just to survive. And you can understand why Nigerians are reacting this way. I mean, I feel like it's been, this way for a while, but it's hard for Nigerians to see that, especially now. Your thoughts?
Ajekpe Senate President, enjoy your life. You are the man of the moment. Agbabola, Udogu, shop Nigerian money, shop and where. I'm hailing him. You see, Oji, I don't know how to cry again. And I don't want to exercise my, what do they call it now, Dr. Abati? Give me the word. Is it called lacrimal gland? I don't want to exercise my lacrimal gland because of fleeting circumstances. But Oji, I just want to drop a quote. And that quote will cut across Malami, all the looting, and this man that has been given this position, and they decide to live life this way. Oji, a country that values privilege over purpose will soon lose the privilege and purpose. That's where Nigeria is headed. We've become a country that values privilege of office rather than the purpose of office to better the lots of people. And a country like that will sink in no time. Within a premises, you have about 3 outriders. Then you are coming at a convoy and all of that. In a country, Oji, that over 80 million people struggle to get access to electricity. In a country where 79%, about 80% of the population is near poverty, 61% already in poverty, 31% in ultra poverty. In a country where children between the age of 5 to 14, about close to 80% of them cannot read effectively. It's in that same country, a very poor country, that the leader of the Senate is driving a Maybach Mercedes. Can you please Google the price of that Maybach? And I'm sure that Maybach is a bulletproof Maybach. It can never be anything less than a bulletproof Maybach. So it is a country that values privilege over purpose. But you see, that country will soon lose both the privilege and the purpose and its essence. And you see, every day we'll come and exercise our glands here every day, our tear glands, because of what Nigeria has become. So I'm not surprised. Ajekpa Ibabami, enjoy yourself.
Dr. Martin,
you are the man of the moment.
Did you just make a quick comment about the convoys that we see here, quickly, before we move?
Okay, just to say that the concern of most Nigerians is about conspicuous consumption of our leaders. We have made the point this morning about how Operation Enduring Peace in Plateau had no fuel to go and rescue people who were going to be killed and who had asked for help. They only showed up after fuel came like manna from heaven. Definitely, the convoy of the Senate president will be fueled. They won't have any problem going to anywhere they are going. So, and that's why people talk about putting the people first, making sure that the people are the first line in terms of every consideration. After all, Section 4, Sub 3, Sub 4 of the Constitution talks about the responsibility of the legislature is to make laws for the peace, order, and good government of the Federation or any part thereof. And this Nigerian legislature over the years continues to fail in that regard. And that's why the people complain.
Yes.
The second part of it, of course, is that, the ostentation may, run against some people's temperament, having up to about 4 or 5 dispatch riders. What is their job? But there's also the issue about the safety of principal officers of state, whether it's the president or members of their family, or is the vice president, or it is Senate president. In a country like this, where there is a lot of insecurity, the security of the principal officers of state is also important. But to what degree? How expansive, how elaborate should it be? That, I think, is the source of concern. But that we have to ensure the security of principal officers who have become technically properties of the Nigerian state. I think we must also carry that along as the other side of the story.
All right. Can we shake the table up a little bit more? Just a little more fun.
Yes, viewers, if you have not subscribed to Yanga Live channel, please click on the subscription button, notification bell, like this video, and don't forget to share it. Bring your own contribution. You must have 1 or 2 things you want to tell us concerning the situation. And don't forget to share it. Till I come your way next time. Bye.